Welcome to the Ride Challenge Confidence series. We've put together 7 tips to help you be more confident in handling and riding your horse. Being more confident helps you let go of your fears and enjoy your horse more. The first tip isn't going to happen just overnight. I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm still a student. Confidence comes from being in control. And being in control comes from having a deep understanding of horses, of how they think, of how to read their body language, how they're reading our body language. It's a continuous study and an art. You can be confident when you know what to do and when to do it when things go wrong. And you have got to have an understanding of your horse, of when he has too much energy and how to get it out, when he is in a bad mood. Reading body language when things are about to go wrong can prevent a lot of accidents. We've all heard people say that they knew they shouldn't have ridden that day, or they knew they shouldn't have done something after an accident had occurred. We have to learn and have an understanding of things in order to have a lot of those gut feelings to make sure that we follow. At our foundation of everything that we're doing, no matter what your goal is with horses, you've got to make sure that you understand them. You wouldn't get on a motorcycle and not understand how to stop or how to accelerate or switch gears before you rode. And I've seen so many times people just hop on a horse and don't have that foundation of understanding or knowledge. So the first key to being confident is understanding.
So tip number 2 is all about groundwork. Groundwork is so important for confidence because we're going to build acceptance on the ground. So if we don't have acceptance on the ground, we will have no acceptance when we ride. So that means if our horse doesn't have a whoa when we're working with them on the ground, they're not going to have a whoa when we're on them. So if we don't do our homework to check and make sure we have a whoa when we're working with our horse on the ground, then when we get on them, we won't know and we can't expect to have a whoa. So groundwork is so important to start there. So then you know that you have the confidence that when you say whoa, your horse will stop. You have the confidence to know that your horse wants to be with you. You have the confidence of understanding before you get on your horse where they are for that day. So groundwork can also help so much with an understanding of where our horse is today. Is our horse a little energetic? Do they have a little more energy? Understanding where they are before we ever get on them so that we're confident as we start to ride and work with them from the ground first. So many people will say, oh, I just want to ride. I don't want to put the time into the groundwork. Let's just get to riding, get right on our horse. But understanding how important that groundwork is before you get on can help with your confidence and also help with any accidents that could happen. And also the connection with your horse before you get on. So groundwork is just as important as the beginning factor before you ever start riding to gain your relationship and your confidence with your horse. You'll find that it's really rewarding to do the groundwork with your horse and build that relationship and connection. It can actually be a lot of fun.
The third key in being confident in handling your horse is taking the time to desensitize your horse. And that can mean a lot of different things. That's going to depend on your horse, on how, if it's a spooky, high sensitive type of horse or a thin-skinned horse like Charlie. A lot of times I have to do things just to let him know, even though he's 12 years old this year, I just have to keep on over and over again reiterating to him that things are not going to hurt him. And it's not only with young horses. A lot of times I've had finished show horses that you have to go back and do your sacking exercises again, rubbing the bags on them again. And we cover this a lot in the Ride Challenge. But your third key is make sure to desensitize your horse. Tip number 4 comes back to us, and you have to build your balance, your coordination, and your strength. Now this is easy when you're a kid and you're out there and you can fall and just keep practicing that way. But as we get older, we have to find safer ways to do this on the ground. There are exercises that you can do with yoga balls. You can work out at the gym, but make sure that you are doing things for your own physical fitness. And this is something I have to challenge myself with also. Do things to get yourself strong that will make you a better, more confident rider. Most of us in our everyday lives are not used to handling reins and ropes. So don't think that you're just going to go out there and be coordinated with this. Practice while you're watching TV. There's different exercises that we're going to share with you on the Ride Challenge of how to practice with your reins, how to practice with your lunge line and your whip. You practice these things and become proficient in it before you go out and handle it with your horse.
So for this tip, we're going to check our equipment. Because if we have the knowledge that our equipment is where it needs to be, everything is intact, everything's in good working order, then we have the confidence that if we need a rein, it's on there tightly. We know our saddle is going to stay in place. So anytime you can check your equipment, you know, head stalls, reins, make sure your bit fits in the correct spot. Check your girth, make sure it's nice and tight. Check your stirrups. Make sure everything looks like it's in really good condition before you ever start working with your horse. And now you have the confidence to know that when you get on your horse, you're going to have all the pieces of equipment that you need for that day. So this tip is our mounting tip. So we want to think about as soon as we go to get on our horse, having confidence. So having the confidence in our ability to mount correctly. If you have somebody who normally holds your horse for you, for this exercise, I like to have a handler if I was going to do this whole exercise, if I wasn't here by myself. So what you want to think about as you go to mount your horse is we've already done all of our other tips. We've already done our groundwork. We've already spent a lot of time. We know our horse has whoa, all of that before we ever go to mount. So we kind of have the confidence that I know he's going to do what I ask him to do as I go to get on him. So what I want to think about as I'm going to mount is I'm short, so I like a mounting block. I don't usually try to swing up from the ground unless I really need to. Doing that can pull your saddle and it can be hard on their back and their withers if you do that a lot. I always recommend using a mounting block, not only to make the ease on us, but also to help our horse's back. So I'm going to go ahead and show you with the mounting block today. In this exercise, what you're going to be thinking about is connecting into what you're feeling as you go to mount your horse. And this is kind of goes back to our awareness tip of being aware of how you feel and being aware of how your horse is responding. So as you go to mount your horse, for safety, you want to make sure you have a hold of a rein. As you go to mount, I like to stop at the top of my mounting block and stay in here for a second so that you can see if your horse is standing still, if they're relaxed. You'll notice if you get to this point and your horse's head comes up, if your horse starts to get nervous as they start to move around. And again, this is just all awareness as you go to mount. This builds your confidence in you and your horse as you begin to mount and to get on. So at this point, if I felt nervous, I would make sure that I honored how I was feeling, and I would stay in here until I feel like I was a little more relaxed, or I'd go back to a little more groundwork. So as we go to mount, put our foot in our stirrup, lift ourselves up and over, and we want to make sure our horse stays still as we go to get on as well. There's lots of exercises and tips on the Ride Challenge on how to achieve a horse being nice and quiet, standing still as we mount. This again is the acceptance that we have built through our groundwork as we go to mount and to get on our horse.
The last tip we have for you is to get control of your horse's body. Going back to our early example, you wouldn't want to just control part of your motorcycle. You want to control all of the vehicle that you're riding. So we want to control all the different parts of your horse's body. There's an old Chinese proverb that says, in order to go fast, I must go slow. So we're going to break it all down, and if you can't handle your horse at the slow speeds with precision and accuracy, you're going to have trouble handling him at the faster speeds. So we're going to break down our horse's body parts, and we're going to make sure we control everything piece by piece. The first and most important thing that you're going to need to have control of when you're riding your horse is to stop. So the most important thing you've got to perfect before you do anything else is your whoa. So if you're walking and you say woo, and your horse doesn't stop, there's your first exercise. The next thing you've got to have control of is your horse's head. So you've got to have lateral flexion from right to left, and we'll cover all these things in future videos. In order to have vertical flexion. And where you want your horse's head set, it's going to depend on your breed. You're going to have control of your horse's hip. You're going to want to teach him to side pass. And to turn on his hindquarters. You've got to perfect your control at your walk. Now this is going to be different for different breeds and different events also. So for our Western horses, Western pleasure horses, we want them to walk very slow. But it's different for different breeds. You're going to have control of your trot or jog. And then you want to have control of an extended trot. And then you're going to lope. Woo. Control of your horse's body parts will give you control of your horse, and that will give you confidence.